Hey, yo.
What up? What up?
What's going on, everybody? Man.
Yeah, it's great to be alive in the land of the living.
Say it again. In the land of the living, it is better to be seen than viewed.
That's right. That's right. Yes. How are you all doing out there? To the 18 people that are joining us on this evening, how are you guys doing?
Yo, I see we got some folks in the chat already. Let's give them their shout outs.
What's up, Kimberly?
Holmes James, give you your horn. Othniel in the house.
Always in the house. Always in the house.
Guy Jean-Louis, my dog.
So, Guy, we're going to just go ahead and, as they say, set the, what do they say? Like,
set the atmosphere.
Not set the atmosphere, like thing the room.
Reset
what is it?
The room.
Not reset the room. I don't know what it is that I'm talking about, but essentially, Guy, I appreciate the part you said happy Sabbath, Pastor K and First Lady.
Oh. She gonna get you.
I'm not gonna get you.
She coming for you.
I just prefer to be called Carlene. Like, yeah, just Carlene.
So I think like historically, from the moment since we've been married and my assignment in the church, Carlene has always revolted against First Lady.
Revolt.
Never wanted people to call her First Lady.
Yeah, I think first, I understand a lot of people do definitely in different spaces. It's kind of like the norm and whatnot. But so
Nicole, is that are you the R&B singer, Nicole Mills? Is that what I'm seeing right now?
I mean, who knows? She might be the
Come
R&B.
on now. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. We've made
yes.
it. We have made it. We have made it. We are accomplished.
Oh my gosh.
Our podcast has made it.
Oh my gosh. So I hope that you all had a really good week. How was your week?
My week was it was productive. It was good. A lot of good things came out this week. Got some good feedback, some good promising endeavors that I'm looking forward to. So so it was a good week. It was a good week.
Okay.
You know, how do I want to say this? The fact that I can make it to the end of the week is always a good week.
That's a praise break.
I'm here.
We thank you, God.
Shout out to being here.
We thank you, God, for being here.
And how was your week, my dear?
I had a pretty great week. Like, my week was great.
That's what's up.
I had a pretty good week. I feel like I told someone this week, I said, I feel stable. You know? Like that. I just feel stable. Yes, things are still happening, but is that stability that I've felt this week? And I'm grateful for it because I don't always feel stable. And so I'm really grateful that that is pretty much what I felt all week.
That's great. That's great. Shout out to stability. Shout out to stability. How was y'all week? Y'all in the 25 people that are watching us 25. This evening, just put in the comment box. Yes. Let us know how you feeling. What was your week like? Give us one word, whatever it may be.
Right.
Or it could be a sentence. You choose freely. How was your week? We just want to make sure that y'all had a good week. We missed y'all last week.
We sure did.
We had a whole lot of things going on. Unfortunately, we could not be able to jump on the computer and do our, normal, consistent podcast. But, breaks are good every now and then, right?
Breaks are good.
Breaks are great.
And this was a family break too, right? We were doing all things surrounding the family, the kids and whatnot. So that felt really good to be doing all that we did on Friday. But it feels really good to be back here in this space with you guys. Nobody's still not typing how their week was. Okay. I think I see Max went ahead and said adrift.
Oh, adrift. That's a good word. I can understand that. I dig that. Stressful as always, but I'm glad that it's over. Yo,
Listen.
I dig that.
We receive it's over,
Yeah.
God. We
Very-
receive
Very
that.
busy. I dig that.
Ooh,
I dig
Jesus.
that. Yo. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. But y'all are here, so that's what's up.
We made it, y'all.
You made it. You made it. Y'all are here, and y'all are watching the best Friday night programming in
Okay.
the Northern Hemisphere.
Okay. No.
Rocking with Carlene plus Jaime. So thank you for being here. Shout out to all the people that show up consistently,
Facts.
watching the best show on Facebook, on YouTube, live on Friday night. I'm going there tonight because I'm just feeling myself.
Okay. Feeling myself.
Feeling myself.
Feeling myself. Okay. All right. Now, thank you for feeling yourself.
All right. Loved, blessed. I like what I'm seeing. Challenging, but I survived.
Yes.
Oh, it's been great. Yo, that's what's up. They coming through with the comments. We love it. We
I
love
look
the
forward
comments.
to the Sabbath as well. Because it just, once again, is it's almost like a chance to reset. To reset. Let's try again next week. But God definitely knew what he was doing, or what she was doing.
Ooh, okay, you're going there already.
I'm going there already.
All right.
Based on what she was doing, by saying on the Sabbath day to rest.
Yeah. So you went there. As you can see, the title of this episode is God is a Black Woman. Now, we want to put the disclaimer out there.
Yes, let's just go ahead and put it out there in the atmosphere.
This is our own deconstruction work that we were doing, our own liberation work, our own anti-oppression work that we've been doing as a couple, and we want to share it with you. So we are not trying to impose or or do anything to force what we've been doing upon you, but we just want to share our journey, right?
Yes.
And so, Carlene, you this week, you want to say something? Go
yes,
ahead.
I do. I also want to say that we understand that this conversation may be hard for some. We also believe and understand that this conversation might be difficult for some to even fathom. We understand that. And this may be a conversation that may not be for everyone. We understand that as well. And as we come and as we present this, or, in our own authentic way, understand that it's not for everybody. And that's okay. Like, we're good. Like, you logged off. It's okay. Like, it's not like a ding at all to us at all. We understand everyone has their own journey, right? And we accept it, we receive it. But this is something that this awakening or awareness of sorts of this topic has just been something that has been gnawing on both of us. And we're just like, yo, let's just go ahead and talk about this.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah.
Talking
And
about it.
And for the most part, I believe that, our audience is an open-minded audience. They rock with us.
Yeah.
They know we're coming from a
Facts.
place of love, and and we just want to share with them and hear what they have to think about it, right? So I'm excited about this topic. I'm excited that sometimes that we could move away from talking about our relationship, and that we could talk about our relationship with God, and our relationship with ourselves, right, and interaction with others, and deconstruction, decolonization, all of that. So, Carlene, what have you been reading? What is going on?
I've been reading. I recently picked up a book that you actually recommended, that someone else recommended to you, and I had no idea what this book was about. I've prior to you sharing it with me, I never knew, I didn't hear about it before. Now I'm usually, I'm into reading just about everything except sci-fi or mystery, or that's the genres that I don't necessarily would go to firsthand. But I definitely like a little bit of historical fiction, or sometimes just reading about our history. Like I have the 1619 Project in my queue to read. And so when Jaime told me about this book, I was just like, all right, cool. Like I thought it was more like a story, like a fiction or a nonfiction book, but I had no clue. But he told me about this book, God is a Black Woman, by Dr. Cristena, what's her name? Clevaland. So that is the book that I've been reading as of late. And I'm listening to it on Audible. I don't actually have the book, but I need to buy the actual book because there's so many things in that book that I'm like, ooh, I need to underline that. Ooh, I need to come back and process that a little bit more longer. But yeah, that's what I'm reading.
So that's what's up. So little thing about me, I don't read novels. Like those type of books I don't pick those books up, even though I need to, because I know it'll help with writing and imagination. I mostly read for information. So if it's a book that is going to inform me, that's going to challenge my thinking, like I have a saying, if it can't be tested, it can't be trusted. So I like to read books that will test and challenge the way I think. So I'm open to new ideas. And when I saw the cover of the book and I had wanted to purchase it before, and then I was with my friend, Reverend Camilla Hall Sharp, who's a genius in her own right. I showed her that it was in my sample list, and she was like, read it. You need to read it. So once she recommended it, I was like, absolutely. The funny thing is, I recommended it to Carlene, and she started reading it before I did. Yeah. I haven't gotten to it yet. But we've been going through it together because she would play stuff, and she would tell me stuff, and we're just like, it's just confirming and just challenging all of the stuff that we've been thinking. And I'm going to say this before we get into the book. I already know that by the title of the podcast, that there were some people that are already challenged by just seeing that title.
Oh, yeah.
That are already like resistant, like, what?
I was resistant.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, I'm like, I thought it was a different kind of book. So I'm thinking like it's a novel, right? About God, maybe there's a twist on it in some way. But the title itself speaks so much.
Yeah.
Volumes.
So we could get it. So let me ask you, what impact has the book had on you? How? And I know you're not finished with it yet. You're still going through it.
Still going through it.
But for the chapters that you've listened to, what kind of impact has it had on you already? Like, what's it doing to you?
It's allowing me, it is challenging me. That's what it is. It's challenging the way that I have been taught to think about God, and it's impacted in how I see God, how I view God. So much so that, oh man, it has spoken to so many parts of me as a Black woman that's living in America, and how I've been beholden to the construct of male masculinity, like male, what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Male dominance or patriarchy.
Maleness, hegemonic power structures.
All of that.
All of that stuff.
All of that. So it's challenging me because now my awareness is there, right? I'm now aware of like, what? I've never even gone there. I've never even thought about that. Or even if I did, my initial response would be, that's heresy. Like that, what? Like that's something that goes completely against everything that I've been taught as a Adventist, as a Christian. So It's impacted me in so many ways.
Right. And this is how I always know a book has an impact on Carlene, because she can't wait to talk to me about it.
Oh my gosh.
So she's driving home. I'm at home. I'm doing work.
I got to take my glasses off.
Out of nowhere, randomly in the conversation, she's like, close your eyes. Close your eyes. So I'm like, all right, my eyes are closed. She's driving, she's like, close your eyes. Now, what is it? picture God or imagine God. What do you see? And so I'm like, all right, I close my eyes. I see a light, right? Like, she's like, oh, that's what you saw? Right. So I'm like, yeah, that's what I saw. She was like, that's interesting because I saw a white male.
But you're skipping ahead. Like, where are you going?
What I'm talking about is like the
impact,
book,
how
the
it's
impact of
impacted
the book,
me.
the book
Gotcha.
impacted you, and how you like this one part of the book. You just had to immediately call me and do that exercise with me.
Yeah, because it's literally mind blowing. Like, it is so mind blowing. So going back to, I'm sorry about that. I was like, wait, where are we going? I was a little lost.
Yeah.
Now I'm back on track.
All right.
I'm back on track. Forgive me for that. So as I'm reading the book, as Jamie said, to Jamie's point, like, I just have to get it out. Like, I have to like talk to someone about it. And so when there was a part of the book, like, she's talking about how ideas form our, what we think forms how we perceive, how we interact with people, how we react, how society is structured is based on ideas, right? And the idea of God being a white, she calls it, what does she call it?
A white male.
White male God. She's saying that we have been subjected to this image of God, and how it has shaped us culturally, how it's shaped how we perceive God and all the like. And so in the exercise, she asked, or in the book, it was just like, what is your, when you close your eyes, what do you see? When you think of God, right? When you think of God, what do you see? And when I was driving at the time, but, I was just like, okay, I need to see what image do I see that comes to mind when I think of God. And the first image that came to mind was the image that all of us have seen with Jesus, blue-eyed, white, hair slicked back, straight nosed. I usually saw him in our churches. Like, we'll see him in churches, maybe in the pastor's office. I probably saw it like during what are those things called, like evangelistic meetings. Like, in the slides, you'll see that image of Jesus step to Christ. That image of, I think he was on a rock or something. I don't know. But those are the images that I remember that I always saw of God. And so automatically my brain just went to that image. And so you had something to say?
Yeah. So I was going to say, I would have answered your question differently if you had asked me, when you close your eyes and imagine Jesus.
Right.
Because I picture God, like I told you, I picture God as just a light, right? As just a being.
Right.
But if you told me to picture Jesus, even though I know Jesus is not white, even though I know Jesus looks more like a Palestinian, I would still see that image of white. I would still see the image of Jesus on the rock with the children, or the crusade picture of Jesus with his arms wide open,
right,
and a bunch of white people waiting to go to heaven, and there's like a sprinkle of a few black people in there as well. Like, I think if I would ask somebody, when you close your eyes and when you see Jesus, what do you see? But I'm also going to say this, that after our conversation, I began to think about how I see God as well. And I think we'll get more into it, but I think that's how I think about, like, if you had asked me that question about, instead of not asking like, how do you picture God, but how do you picture Jesus, I would have defaulted to that
image,
that
the
weird,
same image
weird guy with the long hair.
So Hadessa says, I think of God as a shapeshifter. Matthew says, I hear Morgan Freeman.
Right.
And Nicole says, God is not flesh. And so when I think of God, I think of the Trinity, right? I think of the Holy Spirit as, I don't know, like this spirit. I think of God also, God the Father, as almost like a spirit. But I also, when I think about God, my automatic thing is going to that picture of Jesus, right? And God in flesh, right? In that form. And so that is the image that she said most of us think of when we think about God. It's the white male God that we see.
White male American.
And so what happened, I remember I think when we were probably my early 20s, I remember a picture came out about, I guess, whoever did the study. They were like, this is how Jesus actually looked. And I remember my response was just like, nah, that's not my savior. What are you talking about?
Right.
That's not Jesus. Like, I've been so conditioned to thinking or believing that this is the only image of God. And I'm debunking or denouncing the fact that Jesus might actually look something like me. Like, how crazy is that? Right. And so just the book just highlights so much of this image that we have been conditioned to idolize.
Yeah, and it also highlights the anti-blackness within myself, right? So even like for me to even imagine God as being black and to reject that is like me denying my own skin that he can't be that. But I'm accepting the fact that he can be white, right? I'm accepting the fact that it is okay for ministers when they're doing crusades for me to be okay with seeing image after image of this weird guy with long hair, right? Like this white guy, and from the child to be conditioned to think that. But the book stretches even further, right? So like she says that God is a black woman.
Yeah. For those of you who are in a place in your walk, in your journey, I admonish you to read the book with an open mind.
Yes.
Not to be convicted or to be changed or whatever, but just an awareness of the potential of thinking through the different, how can I say this? Like exploring the different ways that we see God. So she talks about how like seeing God as a black woman, how that for her completely shifted her, I think her relationship and her walk with God in a way that she now was able to see God in a way that he identified with her. Like the white male God, how it's been taught to us, how it's been shown to us is almost like this is the top tier. This is the top of the totem pole. This is how God looks. And just thinking through, like, for real, like God is white, is a white male with blue eyes. So just, I'm going to stop. I'm tagging you in, but I'm just like, it's just amazing just to see how she compared the character of God in comparison to a woman in terms of like how God is seen.
Yeah, I think from what the little that I've gleaned from the book, and we have to go through it, is that if we can see God as a white male, why can't we see God as a black woman? And I think what she's also saying is that let's flip the totem pole. The white male is God on earth, right? Like there's nowhere that a white male Christian doesn't have power and influence.
That's right.
The black woman is the most oppressed person on earth. So she's saying, why can't we see, because, and this is what I was going to, is that if you see God as a white male, then anything that looks like a white male on earth is going to be supreme, right? Like if you can paint Jesus, the savior, white, then you're going to look at anything on earth as being superior. So, and then you will value and be beholden to that. But if you see God as a black woman, you will begin to value Black women's bodies, Black women's voices. You know, it's like Common has this song and it says, what if God was a her, right? Would I cheat on her? Would I do things? And in that whole song, Faithful to the End, Common is like, if God is a her, then I would treat women. Would I treat women differently? Would I be so willing to objectify them? Would I be so willing to marginalize them? And so what she's trying to do in this book is deconstruct our thinking of the oppressed, our thinking of God and how we treat women, right? And how we, you know, if you paint God as a white male, of course you're gonna give access and you're going to be okay with whatever the white male Christian does.
But it's also, in addition to what you're saying, it almost makes it seem as though the image of the white male God, we compare it to the white man, right?
Yeah.
A white male, right? And so how we have been conditioned to honor, respect the white man, right? Let's go to slavery, right? Let's go through the things of history and how this entire nation was formed, right? It's in this way of, there is a, what is it called?
The structure, the caste system.
The caste system, right? Of sorts is like, it like, because it looks like we honor the man that looks like God. And so it's almost like we're beholden to all things that look like the God that we have been conditioned to accept.
Right. And not just in church, outside of church, right? Like we were talking and I was, discussing how back in the days when they used to do global evangelism and they would say, let's send Americans over to Africa,
right,
or over to, global South, whatever country it was, and to preach and to take those images and to preach them. When they first started doing that thing, take Americans over there, that was taking white men over there because they weren't letting women go over there and preach.
Nope.
They were taking white men over there. Then they started opening it up and us Black preachers start doing it. But when we went over there, we went with the white images of Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? So you have this conditioning of just seeing white in holiness. And there's also the conditioning of seeing Black as unholy.
Right.
Black as dirty. And then you have the even worse conditioning as Black women,
right, as
dirtier.
Yeah.
Loose.
Yeah.
Loud.
Yeah. And I think she called that the Jezebel stereotype, or the Jezebel's myth that says that our white counterparts, white women, will be seen as modest, especially when it came to sexual purity. They were homemakers. They were essentially accepted, even though they weren't as, the same with white men. They were much higher than Black women. And so with the Jezebel stereotype, she was talking about how for Black women, it's almost like we are always objectified. We're looked at as these sexual beings, right? That the slave master, like she goes into how like slave masters will be using women's bodies for just pleasure, right? And so in this Jezebel stereotype piece, like she's just comparing to say like how as Black women, like we are at the bottom of the totem pole. And when we think about God, right? When we think about God, it's almost like sometimes it feels like we're forgotten, right? Because the images, the things that we hear, the things that we see inside the church, outside of the church, does not glorify us in that positive way. Like she told a story about how it was this church that needed a praise and worship music minister or something like that. And it was a white church. And so the pastor asked her, can you please like recommend someone to help us out? And she actually didn't even say the name of the person, or maybe she did say the name of the person. And she was like, actually, it's this black woman that I know that I want to recommend, or something like that. I may be telling the story. I may not be telling it correctly, but essentially the pastor turned around and said, if she's a black woman, I don't want her leading praise and worship because she's going to sleep with all the musicians, right? And it's that automatic stereotype for us that we're our bodies, like our little girls, their bodies are, seen as too mature, right? And we have to tell our little girls how to sit, how to kind of cover their bodies, when the bulk of that responsibility should be on the man, right? And so, I know I said a lot, but essentially that piece about the Jezebel stereotype and what she talked about was just like, wow.
Yeah. And the book, from what we've gathered so much, is really pushing us to see the feminine characteristics of God, to see the womanist characteristics of God. That if he is the God of all people, if he's the God that created men and women, who is touched with our very own infirmities, then he cannot simply be in tune with just men. He is in tune with women as well.
Yes.
So this is my deconstruction that just happened. Whenever I thought about God, I always saw God as the God of the oppressed. I always saw, but when I pictured God as the migrant who is at the border. I pictured God as the homeless person. I picture God behind bars. But here's the thing. I always pictured God as the man that is at the border. God is the homeless man. God is the man in prison. I've never, ever imagined God, to see the image of God or my perception of God as the woman who is incarcerated, as the woman who is homeless, and even in my preaching, like we were talking about, how revolutionary would it have been if I preached from a perspective of saying, she opens doors for me. She made a way out of no way. She continues to open the eyes of the blind. Because here's the thing, while Elohim is a masculine noun form of God, Shekinah is the divine feminine.
Mercy.
So when you say the Shekinah glory of God rest upon us, it is the feminine attribute of God present. So God is both. God can be a black woman.
Wow.
Right? And so, what does that deconstruction mean as well? Because we never preach or teach that, in the fact that God is always he. Because my own deconstruction is that when I make appeals, I don't say your father is calling you.
Right.
Because I can imagine that can be triggering to someone who's been molested by their father, or someone who's just had a bad relationship with their father. So I've done that kind of deconstruction to say God is calling you. Yeah. God wants to have relationship with you. But what would it take for me to get up and say, she? Right? That.
Yeah. Let me. So when we were talking about this earlier, and you said that, what you just said, what you just shared, I told Jaime that seeing God in that way of she opening up doors, like it when he said it, I automatically connected to it in a way that I can't even express. It was almost like I was saying, wait, not that I didn't know that God cares for me, God loves me, that right, that I've been taught, is not to say that. It's just to see, like in Hebrews 4 verse 15, I think it was, where it says like the high priest, whatever, he was
touched with our infirmities. We don't have a high priest who is not touched with our infirmities. He was tempted in all ways, but yet he did not sin.
But he did not sin. So it's almost like, yes, like just thinking about She opened doors. She parted the Red Sea. Like, that in itself is healing as a Black woman in a country that says that I am not even, like, I'm nothing, right? Treated like nothing, right? When we think about our bodies, right? When we think about women who are pregnant in America, Black women who are pregnant in America, and the kind of care that they receive, we receive. We talk about Black women in our bodies. We have to advocate. We have to advocate so much more than our white counterparts, right? And there's just so much more that I can go through in terms of how we are respected in the workplace, how we are valued or undervalued, right? When we think about who we are, like, we are strong Black, and we can't break or look like we're about to break, because it's almost like, no, Black women can't do that. We can't show weakness. And just to kind of connect with God in that way, to know, yes, you care about even me, this Black woman. Mm-hmm. Like, when I was reading the book and she was just talking about Christ, and it's not to say that God is necessarily a female. Like, how I was seeing it was like, he's not necessarily female, but he has female characteristics. Like, he has to, if he was tried as we were, then he has to have a heart for women. Right. It's just like God has given a man with emotions, right? Society says don't show those emotions because you look like you're weak, but those emotions are innate. And so it's almost like, why can't we see God or connect with God in the feminine? Right. Because who taught us that we can't? Right.
Well, the reason, and so even like in our talking, we use he a lot, and we understand why we use he, because only men were able to write the Bible. Only men were able to translate it. Only men were able to.
There were no women sitting at those tables talking about, like, let's transcribe this thing.
Right. And so I think what's important for us is that I'm learning not to what's the word I'm looking for? To commit gender to God. It's God, right? Mm-hmm. And that's going to be hard, because when I read the Bible, it's always he. But I understand why it's always he, because only men were allowed to do that. Mm-hmm. Women were just for reproduction. Mm-hmm. Women were second-class citizens, mm-hmm. right? And what I also understand about the book that I'm getting from it, and I need to continue to read it, is picturing God as an oppressed person, mm-hmm. right? Like, how can we see God as an individual who is looked down upon, and to identify with mm-hmm. that God in our own person and in our own being and who we are? So God can be the migrant mm-hmm. at the border, mm-hmm. right? God can be the woman who is incarcerated. It's the image of God is in that person. Mm-hmm. And that image, like, I'm not going to put a male image inside of a woman.
That's right.
Right? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, you are the image of God. You are the walking embodiment. Mm-hmm. But I do agree that it's not fair to attach to God white maleness.
Right.
And I believe embracing that lie is the greater sin of continuing to promote and continuing to push that image constantly throughout the church when everyone knows it's not true. Mm-hmm. But because it's white and it's male, we ain't gonna say nothing about it, because there's also this anti-Blackness work that we need to do because of the fear of speaking up, the fear of being called out, the fear of not being accepted, the fear of all this stuff. Because I look at the Black Caucus, right? Mm-hmm. Regional conference presidents, and I always sit down and wonder why do I see them using these slides of white Jesus? Mm-hmm. Or like making a statement like, we need to reject this lie. Mm-hmm. And that we need to start really doing some real deconstructing work, decolonization work within our own selves, mm-hmm. and that our own anti-Black, because it shouldn't, I'm just saying, it shouldn't offend someone if you came to me and you said God is a Black woman. Mm-hmm. I should be like, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't offended when I was listening to Common and he was rapping. He was like, what if God is a her? I wasn't offended when Andre 3000 in his song, and then he ended the song by saying amen, and then he said, oops, I'm sorry, a lady.
Bars. Yeah. 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 You're right. It shouldn't be. But because of the way that our minds have been conditioned and constructed to only think of God as this one way, it causes people to be uncomfortable. Just like if you go against the grain, if you go and do something that, I don't know, piercing your ears, right? There's going to be people that are going to be anti-jewelry, right? And opposed to it being, yo, it's your body. Do whatever it is that you feel. That is between you and God at the end of the day. It's not between you, me, God. It's between you and God. I liken it to this topic that we're talking about. Yes, it's hard. It's a hard topic. Like it is as you say, it's a process of deconstructing what you've been conditioned to doing or feeling or being. That is the difficult part. I remember when I asked you about, what do you see? And you said what you saw, and you were like, I was just like, yo, how did you come here? Jaime said, I've done the work. I'm doing the work, right? Of deconstructing the image that has been kind of like propaganda in our minds and in our churches that we grew up in. And so he's like, he's done the work. And I'm like, okay, so a work needs to be done within yourself. And again, I just want to make sure that I enforce that point of this is not Carlene and Jaime is just that. We're Carlene and Jaime on a journey, and understanding that this thing might be a little bit difficult for some people to kind of push through, because it literally jars everything within you to say, y'all wrong. Stop that right now and go ahead and do something or talk about something else. And I get it. I completely get it. We are not offended in any way. But what I will say is, to your point that you just made, let's go ahead and be okay with wherever someone is.
Yeah.
In their journey and in their process in terms of how they view God. Because at the end of the day, is that relationship with God, your relationship with God, not my relationship with God, but it's your relationship with God.
Mm-hmm. So I have this question for you now. So understanding and reading, we're not done with the book, but is there a shift in how you view yourself in light of God and your relationship with God, with just from what you've already gleaned from the book?
Yeah.
So thus far.
Yeah, there's definitely a shift. I think I expressed some of it already. But there's already a shift where I feel when I read the Bible, like I don't have to read it with one lens, the lens that I've been reading it for years. Like I can turn it into whatever it is that I feel in that moment that it needs to be, or how I view God, how I relate to God, how God relates to me in those spaces. But it's impacted me in also teaching our girls, going beyond just me, but teaching our girls how to be able to deconstruct even at this age. And I think we've started the work with them since they were like babies. Like we were very reluctant to buy Bibles, children's Bibles with the white male God, right? And we would always tell them, we see this image. This is the image that this illustrator decided to draw Jesus. But understand that this is their interpretation of how they see Jesus, but this does not have to be your interpretation of how you see Jesus. This was like, they were babies.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy is.
Right, he's a stranger.
I don't know who that is. That's some dude they be paying to be on pictures. I don't know who he is.
Essentially. So I think it has really impacted the work that we continue to do with Caitlin and Amber, and just continuing to just feel seen.
Yeah, because
God.
even the so-called Black Jesus that they put on the cover,
right. It's just
he still looks European.
You said what did you say? You said
a brown crayon,
a brown crayon,
caramel color crayon, just colored over the white Jesus. Like,
oh my god,
like your mom had an afro, right? And some afro sheen and a Jerry curl,
right?
But you know, I'm just kidding. Like that, those things don't make you black. But I was thinking like, you know, about even my own deconstruction, right? And like even the stereotypical norms that are placed upon me as a male, right? And what I have to do, and even me not seeing the feminine side of God, right? The nurturing, and here's the thing. That's deconstructing. The feminine side of God doesn't have to be nurturing, doesn't have to be motherly. It can be the opening doors, the making
strong,
a way out of no way, strong. You know, it can be all of that. But to understand that neither male nor female, like we can't just narrow down and just say that he is God. He is bigger. Oh, here it is. He is bigger than our social constructs of gender identity and gender norms.
That's it right there. And now we will end the show. That's it right now. Go ahead and say that again, please. Because that's it.
I don't know what I just said.
Can we rewind? Because that's it right there.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Ooh, I wish we could rewind.
Yeah,
that is
but
it.
It's recorded. So you got Courtney on here. She is a Bible scholar.
Clearly, because I want to actually get to the comments because there's so many of them coming through. But she says of the over 2,000 times it's used in the Old Testament, Elohim also is used to refer to the one true God, but also generically to gods and goddesses. So though parsed it's male plural, it's not really gendered. Think about when people say man or mankind. Elohim is able to be applicable to God being not gendered.
That's right. Right. So but that's not, but so thank you for providing that, Courtney, but that's not taught and that's not explained. And I think that's a knowledge that theologians share, you and I that have, you know, gone through seminaries and have done that kind of work. That knowledge isn't shared. And even the divine feminine of God, Shekinah, right? It's always within the context of male, 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 male. And I think that it's important for us to do that. And I really want to harp on God is a black woman because of it is the reaction to God being a white male to seeing God as a black woman, the most oppressed and rejected
at the bottom
group,
of the totem pole. Listen.
And to honor black women, right? And
what a way to honor black women.
Right. And I also feel, too, that when we begin to honor and begin to respect the beauty and who black women are, once you start fighting for social justice issues for black women, everybody benefits.
Yeah.
All women benefit.
Yeah.
You know, when you start fighting for maternal care and when you start fighting for health care, when you start fighting for black women's rights, everybody benefits from it. And not only using black women to fix everything.
That's right.
Like I was sharing with Carlene, oftentimes when you see a black woman come into leadership, it's sometimes, unfortunately, after a male has messed it up. And we always bring in the black woman to clean it up. You know, like black women are always coming behind, cleaning stuff up, fixing stuff up. They got to take over everything that we mess up. They got to come in and take it over. And so how do we honor? How do we respect? How do we lift up and amplify the voices of black
women? Marvin poses a really good question. He says, I get the premise of this book, and because of the devalue of non-white people and culture by the colonial authorities that have decided their supremacy as king, I have a question. How important is it for other races, non-black and white? Is it also important for other races to think that Jesus' race and or of their culture?
I think it's important. So here it is. I think it's important for people to identify with Jesus in their own race or their own persona, and even in their own culture. Like she brought up that point about the appearance of Jesus, that it's not just in Jerusalem, that there have been instances of Christendom, or I forgot the exact word that she used, of the appearance of Christ, right? And she was like, to limit Jesus as just a person is like saying the only time the Holy Spirit shows up is as a dove.
So that's to say that we're only seeing the Holy Spirit as an animal, essentially, as a bird.
Right. And so she's like, Christ has shown up in various cultures and various places. They refer to that. There's a specific term that's referred to that she uses in her book. So I think it's important that we do see Jesus and identify him within our own race and our own space. I think the issue is that within Western society, within America, Jesus is viewed as a white male American. And I think that's a problem, because now that's nationalism, and that's not Christianity, or that's not who Jesus is, because a white male American is identified with January 6th.
Right.
He has now been identified with slavery. He has now been identified with the KKK. He has been kidnapped and he has been usurped into becoming the god of white nationalism. And not the God of the oppressed, right? So I think oppressed groups and all those groups, they should be able to identify God within their context and within their identity to find liberation.
Yeah.
In this Jesus who was oppressed, whether male or female, however they identify with them. I think that we need to clearly point out the fact that the Jesus that is celebrated in America is not the Jesus that we read about in the Bible. It is the white Jesus, not the right Jesus.
And as you were talking, I thought about what she said about the piece of when you see the men that, like she said that George Washington, Trump, and even Joe Biden, like she talked through, like these are images that we see. These are the only people, right? I think the chapter was In God We Do Not Trust, right? Like the American God, the God that is okay with, what is it? Electing a misogynist,
Right.
a male that
a clearly individual who has no relationship with any kind of church or faith or spirituality.
So the thing, what came to mind for me was, maybe they're not praying to the same God I'm praying to, right? Because then her question was that she posed is like, where is God in all of this, right? We see black men are beaten and killed by police officers. Like we're seeing all these things happening, and so it's almost like, how could you claim to be a God follower or a follower of God and still be as evil as you are, right? Like, are you praying to the same God that I'm praying to? I'm like, nah, I want to pray to the black woman. The God is a woman in comparison to the white male God, right? Because the white male God is showing me that, or almost like these are people that are using this image as a way to, what's the word I'm looking for?
To push their agenda, to get what they want,
exactly.
To justify wars, killing people, all of that.
Exactly. So it's almost like, I don't think we're praying to the same God, because this God that you have idolized or allowed us to idolize in that way, it's not for me. He's not for me, right? Because if he was for me, then we would not be seeing the injustices and all that we're seeing, right? But I want to focus on the femininity of God that really cares for the least of these. And I'm not saying that male masculinity doesn't care for the least of these. I'm not trying to say that. But what I'm saying is this masculine male God is something that I'm like, nah, I don't want that.
Yeah, facts. And I love what Courtney said. Like, so I know her as Courtney because we went to high school together. But Courtney,
did you put up her comment as well?
Yeah, when she was like, it's crazy that it's easy for people to see God as a bird, but they can't see him as a black woman.
That's good, Courtney.
Right.
Oh, I'm gonna put it up one more time. That is
Very comfortable
wow.
with seeing God represented as a bird. Like I'm sure you could put pictures all over the church about God as a bird, but do not put no picture of his God as a black
But
woman.
I think I think what it speaks to is how it's almost like brainwashing.
Yeah.
Like how like anyone but a black woman.
Right.
Like anyone else. Like we'll accept anything else. But a black woman, nah.
It speaks to
Jesus.
It speaks to narratives about black women. The welfare queen during the Reagan administration was a trope on black women. Right? That's where welfare queen came from. And, they used that and attached it to black women. So black women were called welfare queen. We were talking earlier, you mentioned it, how our daughters, black girls, are not viewed as little girls. They're viewed older than they actually are. And they're treated that way too. Right? And so it's like these tropes, these monikers, these narratives. And don't say, I'm not gonna say hip hop music isn't complicit with it, but it didn't start with hip hop music.
It started with slavery, and and going back as far as soon as the invention of race, right, and just like how to devalue people, the black women,
right?
The black woman,
right? So I'm not removing hip hop's responsibility in it. But I'm not also attributing that it's hip hop's fault why black women are, narratives about objectified. Like black women get B and H word treatment, and you don't even have to call them that in America, in the world. In the world, it's not just America. So we going all over the place. But let me say this. We have reached out to Dr. Cristena Clevaland, and so we're hoping that she would be willing to be a guest on our show and that y'all could ask all the questions y'all want to ask her. So, hopefully she'll come through and we could interview her and ask her questions about this revolutionary piece of work. And like, even when she talked about, you could see her videos on YouTube when she talked about how she started writing for Christianity Today and how she was pushing it and how Christianity Today was even pushing back against her.
Oh yeah, she said she got hate messages. She said she usually gets it, but when they were sent to her home and it was like death threats, and all the like, because she wrote an article about I forgot what she wrote. Do you remember what she wrote?
She wrote an article about God and black women or something to that nature. But if you go on YouTube, if you type in Dr. Cristena Clevaland, you type in her name on YouTube, you'll see the video. And she has a name for Christianity Today. I forgot what name it was, but it was almost like to the extent of preserving Christianity or Christianity forever. It's like basically saying like don't change up what we know as Christianity with your new crazy ideas. Like leave it the way it is. Right. And so she was challenging against that. But yeah.
I want to there's something that you said regarding, with me on this journey. There was something you said about people that are free, like free thinkers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, about why oppression comes with oppression. People who want to oppress you don't want you to be able to think. So people who want to control the way you think will also control what you read and will also control your voice. And I think that is like, and I think that can be one of the problems within religion, that there's no opportunities for us to have conversations like this. And well, let me not say no opportunities, right? Maybe there are opportunities, but sometimes conversations like these aren't welcomed, right? Like a AY about this isn't welcome because I'm assuming 9 times out of 10, your pastor is probably going to shut it down. And so, when we think about being able to think, I always, like I'm saying, if it can't be tested, it can't be trusted.
Right.
And I love being able to challenge what I've been taught and challenge what I've been told and make sure that it's true for me and that it'll be able to stand. And so, you know, I think it's always important for us to, a colonized mind is a conquered mind. And so I just love the fact that we have this platform, and I mean, we are not trying to use this platform to impose upon you. Matter of fact, you all adults.
Right.
Y'all think for yourself.
It's not. We not,
can't tell y'all what to do.
We not in Sabbath school.
It was like the jewelry episode we did, and they were like, these are two people trying to influence and make it okay to wear jewelry. Bruh, I can't tell these adults what to do. They do whatever y'all want to do. Y'all
whatever
y'all
you
make
want.
your own informed decisions. We just want to be able to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Freely.
Yeah, without constraint of you can't talk about it, because the moment you talk about it is almost like this fear that comes over Christians, that when you talk about something or you expose something to people, that you are afraid that they're going to be closer to God, or they're going to leave the church.
Right.
That shouldn't be the fear at all.
Roy said, pastors go to AY? No, pastors do not go to AY, but they do be controlling that thing.
Yeah, I think that's the piece, right? Like, I think I'm just tired of the scare tactics, and really being able to challenge what I've been taught, what I've learned, and why I do what I do.
Yeah.
I want to live in the freedom of to be able to free my mind of whatever, and for me to not use it as a mode to try to convict people or trying to change hearts. Nah, it's more or less like we're sharing in this we're sharing this in this space. We share in a way where we're just literally, it's like we're just bringing you guys into our home, our living room, our conversations. This is exactly what it is, because this is exactly what it will be, us literally going back and forth and just talking about all the things. But I think that there's just so much freedom in just leaning on God and leaning not to our own understanding.
Right.
Like allowing God to direct and lead, right? Just to be open to it.
Right.
That's it.
And our own personal development. Right. That's it. That's it.
That's it.
And so our time is up. I do want to let the folks know that we're gonna be moving the replays of the episodes to YouTube.
Say we moving. Where we going?
Right, to YouTube, so that you guys can go over there and catch the replays. But we'll leave it up for the weekend. But you're gonna start, because we want to edit it and make it real nice, so that when you watch it again, you'll be able to watch it comfortably, and it'll look like a broadcast. And then also, we just want to keep reminding you, we have our podcast.
Facts.
It's on Apple, it's on Spotify. Carlene plus Jaime. Do us a favor. It will cost you nothing to like, subscribe, even on YouTube, Carlene plus Jaime. And we see the numbers going up. We appreciate you.
We so okay.
Yeah, we love it. The more,
I'm riding.
And if you rock with this episode and other episodes, please feel free to share it and tell some people about it. But thank you for joining us tonight. Shout out to the 37 people that hung out with us.
You guys hung strong tonight.
Y'all.
And I know this conversation was just like, oof. This was a lot, but hopefully we'll be able to, because I'm still reading the book. I'm still in the process of reading it. And I can't wait to see what else she has to say. And hope maybe the more we're in it, the more we'll share with you guys, and just kind of like, again, bring you all into the conversation, so that you guys can just be aware of all the things and see how God is going to move in this space.
Yep. That's it. So, this is
Carlene.
And this is Jaime.
Peace.
Peace out.
3, 2, 1.